Today we're gathering around the campfire with Daren, a QHS member whose life is as exciting and grounding as a hike through the mountains. But what trails did he tread to reach these heights? Let's trek into the wilderness and discover the adventures that led Daren to where he is today.
Hi, I'm Daren, and I'm doing my prequel here in hopes that it'll help somebody else. I'm not so interested myself, but that's all right. I'm willing to be of service. That's my purpose right now. I grew up in British Columbia in the mountains of West Kootenays, a very small farm, and I had a very idyllic childhood. It was so perfect, I don't even remember the first 5 years. I don't remember anything about it until I get kicked in the face by a horse, and that kind of shook me up a little bit and maybe twisted my face a bit, but it's not too bad. Anyway, life went on, and around 10 years old, then my dad started getting heart attacks, and that's when life really changed for me. He was not able to work anymore, and living on a small farm, we lived off the farm. We grew all our own food on the farm, cut all our own firewood, and I had to take on those chores at that point because I didn't want my dad doing it because I was afraid he might die. And so I was under that fear and the stress of doing the work, and that's how I grew up in my teen years. After, things went all right, and I really didn't have any problems. And I still enjoyed outdoors and nature. That's where I lived, in the mountains all the time. That was my background playground. I always ran in the woods with my dog, and my dog was my best friend, really the only friend I had, but he was a very great friend. Anyway, after I finished high school, my teachers encouraged me to go to university. They figured I could do it, so I figured, okay, I'll give it a shot, and I went, and I didn't do so great the first year, but after that I learned, how to work the system, and, by the time I graduated, I did very well. I worked every summer in a sawmill to earn enough money to get me through the winter, and that worked well. After I graduated, I went to work for an oil company and worked there and got married, had 2 lovely daughters. They're really strong, independent women now, and they're doing really well. I worked there in Calgary for 10 years or so, and then I decided I wanted to go overseas, and so I worked in Borneo for 5 years, Borneo, Indonesia, where the headhunters are, or were anyway. And so that was interesting. That was a real major culture shift for me to see people living in those conditions and that type of lifestyle. And so I worked in Borneo for 5 years, and the company moved to Jakarta, which was semi-civilized, I would say. It was halfway between a modern city and a kampong, which they call the villages. Anyway, I worked there, and then after my contract was over at 10 years, I moved back to Canada, and I really didn't land on my feet very well when I came back. I didn't really find a good job. I went broke. I lost my health. I lost my marriage. So I was pretty well rock bottom at that point. I had no place to go but up. And I was studying with a spiritual group at that time, and that was really my savior, because then I knew what I needed to do to get out of that situation. All I had to do was do it. So I buckled down and got myself out of that situation. And in that was a great learning. That was really my awakening, I would say. My really start of awakening of what my beliefs were, what was happening in the world, and what was happening with me, and what I needed to do to fix it. And so I've been becoming more and more awake every year since that time. And but that was the start. And after that, I started. Well, let's see, where did I go? I started working on myself, like I said, and it took me a lot longer than I expected to change my attitudes and beliefs. I figured maybe 5-10 years I'd be able to, get on to a normal track again. But in reality, I'm still making changes. And that's over 25 years ago. And so, it takes a little while to make these changes. They don't happen quickly or immediately, and that's probably a good thing, because some of the shocks I had along the way were really quite major, and it took several years to overcome some of these major changes. And you got to take your time. You can't do it too quickly. Now, I joined QHS after joining LWS, and that's really how I got involved in QHS, is because of Ron, and he kind of took me over. And the reason I really joined was because at that point I had the vision of being a world server, doing a lot of humanitarian projects in the world. And QHS was just one of my projects. I was, how I was going to help in the health field. Now, I have a whole bunch of projects in every aspect, and my belief is that unless you have clean air, clean water, purified food, and right proper mental attitudes, you're never going to be completely healthy. And even with those in place, you're still not going to be completely healthy, because you are influenced by all the environment around you, all the people around you, and all the damage that Mother Earth has sustained as well. So I feel you have to heal everything in order to be perfectly healthy. And that really is my goal right now. And actually, you can see that golden era is coming up behind me right now. That's the golden era. And that's why I like keeping that background. It reminds me where I will be pretty shortly. And thank you very much. That's my story.
Join us on the Prequel, where every story matters and every voice is heard. Because here at QHS, we're all about healing, learning, and growing together.